Hello everybody at the World Student Environmental Forum. My name is Rob Hopkins from Transition Network here in Totnes in Devon in England, and I'm really honoured to be the patron of your event and to be able to speak and have some kind of contribution to what you're doing over what looks like it's going to be a really exciting, a really thrilling event, a really thrilling occasion. So I'm not there in person, I'm afraid. I don't fly and tend to be quite busy with doing things here. But that decision to give up flying about 6 years ago was taken as a way of really trying to walk my talk in terms of working with climate change and so on. So it means I do a lot of presentations like this, recording things on cameras and DVDs and sending them off. Sometimes makes me feel a bit like Osama bin Laden sitting in a cave sending talks off around the world, but it does mean that we keep the carbon footprint down of what we do and kind of practice what we preach, and that feels really important. So one of the things that you're going to be looking at, I suppose the main thing that your conference is looking at, is about change and why change matters and what change looks like and how you can actually start to make change happen in the places that you live. And I think there are three key reasons why we need to be focusing on change. And the first one of those is climate change, which I'm sure will be discussed at your event. You know, we have to keep below 2 degrees, even 2 degrees increasing in temperatures globally is too much, and we're already seeing the impacts of a 0.8 degree rise around the world already. And we can only use about 1/5 of the fossil fuel reserves that remain in the world without pushing us over that. So the rapid and creative decarbonisation of what we do is really important. There's peak oil, which is the issue that we are running out of cheap energy, and the things that people get very excited about now, the tar sands, unconventional oils, gas fracking, these kind of things, are really the scraping the barrel of the oil age. We're only having to do those things because all the good, cheap, easy oil has gone. So we're entering a time, I think, where the degree of our oil dependency is a key vulnerability. We really have to break that relationship. And then the third one is around what's happening economically, that we are really starting to see economic contraction rather than economic growth, and the whole debt bubble, the leftovers from the big party that's happened over the last 30, 40 years, the big consumerist party that we've borrowed money in order to make happen, is really coming home to roost. So I think those three things put together really force us to think about where we go from here in a very different way. And I think as young people, one of the challenges is that the future that the next generation has imagined would be laid on for you, the future that you've grown up thinking is waiting around the corner, probably isn't the future that we're going to get. That's not to say that we can't actually create something really good from that, and I suppose that's really what transition is all about, which is saying, well, here we are in this situation where we are coming up against limits to growth, we're coming up against resource constraints, there's not the money that there was around before, we have the climate issue as a pressing issue, saying we really have to change direction in terms of how we do things. Do we see that as an enormous crisis? Do we see that as a disaster, or do we see that as an opportunity to be really creative? And I think that for me it comes down to the need to do something at this point in time. And from a transition angle, which is a movement that I started here in 2005, which has grown from here to there being now thousands of initiatives in 34 countries around the world of ordinary people just getting on with it and doing stuff, based around the idea that what we need to do now is to make the places that we live to work at the community scale, to make the places that we live more resilient, more able to withstand shock from the outside, to focus on building and strengthening our local economies, this idea of intentional localization, creating networks of local food, locally generated energy, local economies, local currencies. This is an idea which has spread like wildfire, and I think is one of the big ideas of our time at this stage, the idea that we take control over what actually happens around us. And for me, it's about it's exciting. It's a thrill. It's something where we're doing this kind of stuff with other people. You know, there's certain things we can do on our own as individuals. We can change our light bulbs. You know, there's all these books, 1001 things you can do to save the planet, and all those things are fantastic, and we should be doing all those things. But there is another step up, which is where you get together with your friends, with the people around you, with people in your school, people in your college, people on your street, your family. You look and you say, well, actually, what could we do if we all came together and did something on a bigger scale? Maybe rather than me just doing stuff in my own home, actually, if we came together, we could take over that piece of waste ground at the end of the street and grow food on it for people, for people on this street. We could bulk buy insulation and all help insulate each other's houses. Stepping it up a scale more, if you can really start to involve the people in your area, in your neighbourhood, then you start to get into another scale of things. Maybe we could set up our own currency for this area. We could set up our own farm here. We could create our own energy company. And the transition approach is really about trying to inspire that. It's this idea of engaged optimism. What does that look like if it's the driver for where we go from here? So we have projects that have emerged through transitions, such as in Bristol in England, there is about to be the launch of the Bristol pound, which is a local currency scheme for the whole city. They have printed notes which have as many security features as sterling, but were designed by the people of Bristol, will be accepted in many hundreds of shops. But they also have a system where you just go into the shop and you text the shopkeeper, and that's your transaction done. But it's used in local shops, local enterprises, to keep that money cycling locally, rather than being spent in chain businesses where that money is gone out of your community the next day. They're like an extractive industry in that sense. In the city of Bath, they've set up Bath and West Community Energy, and Bath and West Community Energy is a community-owned renewable energy company. So it's going to be putting in place renewable energy around the city of Bath, but in such a way that it's owned by the people and for the benefit of the community. So they recently raised £750,000 in a community share option, people moving their pensions into it, and this idea of models whereby people can invest into their community are really, really exciting. And in a village called Sluthwaite in Yorkshire, the community there took over their local shop, run it as a cooperative. There's a new cooperative set up to grow produce to supply the shop. They raised £15,000 in shares from people so that shop is owned by local people. These kind of things are really, really exciting, and they take a lot of work, but actually we can do that if we come together with other people. In the town of Totnes, where I'm speaking to you from today, we're starting to see what happens when you take this thinking around resilience, around localization, around entrepreneurship, and you start to really focus it and see what it looks like in one place. So here we have our own energy company set up with a local currency called the Totnes pound. At the moment we're just finishing an economic blueprint, which is a whole plan for this town, looking at how this new local economy could emerge. One of the things we found is that every year we spend £32 million on food, of which £22 million goes out through just the 2 supermarkets. So then you start to be able to say, well, look, if we could just shift 10% of the money we spend on food and spend it in local businesses, on food grown locally, supporting our local growers and farmers and producers, that's £2 million in the local economy that was otherwise leaving the local economy. And that's a really, really important concept. You know, where are we going to get £2 million from? Is the government going to give it to us? Well, not at this stage, but maybe we can start to really focus it locally. So why does it matter that young people at an event like this get together and meet and talk? Well, I think one of the things is to really inspire each other. You know, I remember when I was younger, going to events like that would be really inspiring, meeting other young people who share the passion, who share the enthusiasm, share the vision that something needs to be done, and to hear the latest ideas, to hear what other people are up to, and to really kind of make a commitment that you're going to go back from this event and do something and deepen the work that you're doing around that. You might meet other people who are the people that you've really been looking for to get something started, and then to be able to support each other as that moves forward. You know, if you get inspired, you go back home, not that many other people around you are inspired, but you have a network of people who can keep feeding you with energy to keep that going. You know, there are things that we can do as individuals. You know, one of mine was to stop flying, for example, and to grow food in my house and try and insulate my house as much as I can. But as I say, you know, there's also the level of what we can do with other people, and then there's also the level of what we can do nationally. And it's also really important that we try and stop the things that we don't want happening, while we're also trying to build the new economy, the new world, the new culture that a sustainable future is going to need. So things like climate camp and these kind of more protest-based things that are saying, line in the sand, we don't want that to happen, are also really important. I think these two things kind of sit alongside each other. The theme of the conference is around Let's Change. And that's a really, really powerful and exciting idea. And I think for me, one of the things that really sustains change and the work and the energy that I put into helping change happen is that it's thrilling. You know, there are those moments in life when the hair stands up on the back of your neck and you feel more alive than you've ever felt before. It may be that you happen to be present at a birth or at the death of a young one, at the death of a loved one, or it may be that actually you see the band that changed your life, or it may be the first time you fall in love with somebody. You know, those moments are intensely clear and exciting and thrilling, and I think that actually the process of saving the world, changing the world around us, should feel like that. That actually, rather than it being something which is kind of driven by gloom and despondency, actually it should be something where we design a process that has as many of those moments where we're thrilled by the possibilities of what we're doing as we can. And so, for example, you know, my experience here in Totnes, you know, regularly as this process moves forward, and you think, oh, do you know, if we did that, then we could do that. You know, there are regular moments when it's a real thrill in that way. And it's not to say that it's going to be continually giddy and wild and exciting, like being in a Kylie Minogue video all the time. But actually, I think if we get this right, then changing the world around us for the better, building resilience, building local economies, with the reskilling, the retraining that goes along with that, should be something which on a regular occasion makes the hair stand up on the back of our neck. And at those moments, the last thing on our mind is going shopping and what's on in the sales. So you know, transition is just one approach. It's the approach that I've been involved with, but it's certainly one which I think is really thrilling and exciting, and I hope it's something that you might find useful in what you do going forward from here. So I hope you have a fantastic event. I hope you leave really inspired. I hope you inspire each other, and I hope you take it home and do as much as you can that brings a thrill to your life, and where you can start to see actual physical change happen around you. So have a fantastic event, and thank you very much.